Batista is the #1 contender for John Cena's belt, as we heard on this week's Raw, and I'd like to see now where Batista can go from here. Everybody is saying that he's going to be at that Over the Limit pay-per-view, and that indeed it will be the end of the line for Dave Batista. I mean, I think it's just too early. The guy really hasn't been on top television for, well, that long. He certainly hasn't had a Ric Flair-length career, but where is he going to go now? I mean, is he planning on becoming a movie star? Because let's face it, the WWE, they didn't have much faith in him, and indeed news that he's been pulled off that movie. I bet Triple H really wanted to get in on that one.
Yeah, Trips is looking after #1 as per usual, and poor Dave gets shafted aside. But come back to think of Dave's stint in WWE, I think you know, he's had a good run, and if you look at people like Goldberg in WCW, I mean, that wasn't a lot of years, and he's still, when people look back and think of WCW, he's one of the guys that you kind of think of. Maybe it's the size, and maybe it's the gimmick he had, just squashing people left, right and centre, which kind of, in a sense, it can be a little bit Batista-ish. But at the same time, he had a good run with Evolution, and being part of a stable like that, in my opinion, was probably one of the top 10 of all, you know, all the kind of stables over the years. But in saying that, I think Vince is going to bury him to fuck, and we've seen signs of it already with the duct tape, and the big man not too happy about that.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about the duct tape finish from the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. What a horrible way of finishing a main event on a top pay-per-view such as that. But let's be honest, that's the way it's been going recently. The world titles have been changing hands probably every other pay-per-view, if not every pay-per-view, and indeed the other belts aren't really getting much of a look in either way. They're not being contested in many cases. The Intercontinental belt getting a bit of a chance now this week. We'll talk more about that vacant Intercontinental title later on WrestleDope. If you're watching on YouTube, keep it in the playlists on our channel, watch in there, and you'll see the entire program. But like we say, I'm sure Batista's furious about this film project. He thought it was going to be the thing that would catapult him into a new sort of career. Maybe he's getting sick now of pandering to wrestling fans. We know he's not been the most, shall we say, friendly guy when it comes to fans. He tends to just drift by them. Maybe he doesn't trust himself around fans and what he could possibly say.
That's it. But at the same time, when you see this week's Raw, and he was pissed. You knew he was pissed off. He kind of had a little bit of a shoot on the duct tape situation from Extreme Rules, which again was just horrendously bad. But that aside, he was genuinely pissed. But for the first part of that promo that he caught on Raw, it felt genuine, and it felt like, you know, fuck this, you know, I really don't need this shit. But then slipped into work mode, and just delivered it tenfold the other way, and certainly worked me and most people there, I would have thought too, and anyone watching at home. But I don't know. I don't think he's looking in Rock territory, and he's not up on that level. He thinks he's looking at the Rock, going, you know, if he can do it, I'm bigger than him. I'm Dave Batista. I'm the Animal, and he hasn't really paid his dues, and he's not as over as the Rock ever would be or was at the time. So just putting the foot in the water a little bit too soon, I think.
I agree with you 100% about that promo he caught on Raw. He's impressed me on Raw. He has had that belt, he's had that new heel persona, and indeed those dark entrances where he's made the subject of attention, the real centre of the focus for the audience, indeed, in the arena and watching at home. And what a perfect way to get a guy like that over. I mean, let's be honest, with the physique he has, you know, he's a spectacle. He is really almost like a sideshow act in some senses. He is a huge guy, and I think he has always been pushed like that. He's been pushed as almost like the strong man, the sort of fairground attraction, and indeed I think Batista could have a bit more time in him. Certainly with this new evil character, I think there's a lot more hope for him to go now for a couple of years, whereas previously I would have thought get rid of him. I'm sick to death of him. But that was just because he was constantly babyface. And indeed, babyface for too long gets very stale indeed.
Yeah, I think we'll expect to see Batista show up at Bound for Glory, hands down. He's not going to go straight into the movie business. Certainly if WWE won't give him a chance to star in one of their own movies with a guy in that shape and that size and with that look. I mean, if Trips is the pick there, then, you know, there's obviously some serious issues. And Ted DiBiase Jr., not forgetting, in the Marine 2. But the less said about that, the better. Batista, I expect to see him on TNA. I'd give it 90-day close, maybe just before Bound for Glory. And yeah, I think he'll be in with Hogan, and Hogan will give him the robe, and happy days. Batista, probably the new TNA World Champion.
Yeah, it looks like a very likely possibility that Dave Batista could be going to TNA Impact, but then, I mean, everybody who gets released from the WWE these days automatically thinks, or at least the work is out there, that those guys are going to TNA. I know they would certainly want to get hold of Batista just for that huge WWE name factor. It cannot be overlooked. I mean, Dave Batista, he impressed me in the ring. I suppose highlights for me of Dave Batista's career, I gotta mention that match against The Undertaker at WrestleMania. I mean, those guys really did it rough and tumble that night, and that sticks out in my memory. What about yourself?
Yeah, there's been a few of the Cena Batista ones that did kind of work me a little bit, I will say. But I don't know. There's a handful. Maybe there was a Batista Trips match that was pretty good at one stage. Nothing else really that stands out in my head. But yeah, I don't know if he'll be remembered as one of the greats if he does go forever. Just a short-ish run, kind of.
Yeah, will Batista be remembered by the WWE audience? Will you remember him? Let us know what you thought of Dave Batista, whether you're live on Justin or here on YouTube. Then, without a shadow of a doubt, we would like to know what you think of Batista. So, Dave Batista, we're almost writing his gravestone at this stage. Is he buried? Is he done in WWE? Well, the dirt sheets would have you believe that, and it seems that Batista v Cena at Over the Limit could be the end of that story. You're listening to Wrestle Dope here on WrestleDope.com and on YouTube.com/TheWrestleDope, as well as live here on Justin.tv/WrestleDope.